Good evening. I'd like to thank everyone for participating from their own homes or offices, wherever they can be. Unfortunately, we've had to go back to our participation via Zoom and with a few of us here in council, but nevertheless, thank you. I'd like to call the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting of Tuesday, October 20th to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, could I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda? Moved by Councillor Abdallah, seconded by Councillor Plummer. All in favor? Approved. I'll ask Ron to make his reports on the new business. The first item is PBIA request. Ron?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Committee direction is required on a PBI request. They've approached the city to create an interactive seasonal attraction in Shamrock Park downtown. It would be kind of a selfie station that would change seasonally, that would allow for fun and interactive downtown attraction. It would consist of a backdrop of plywood that would be changed out at different seasons throughout the year. The PBIA is requesting that the city install the posts to support the signs, and they would attach the backdrop. Staff did check with the planning department, and based on their proposal, the location would not pose a risk on a traffic triangle. Any costs associated with the installation of posts would be funded through the downtown maintenance budget through our department.
Thank you, Ron. Councillor Reevy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is a great idea, particularly with so many restrictions having been placed on us in all of these months. This seems like a safe and fun thing for people to do. I think it would be reasonably easy to maintain physical distancing and, just have some fun in the outdoors. I'm all for it, and I would move that we accept this and move it forward.
Thank you. We have a motion on the table to accept the recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Abdallah. Further comments, questions? Councillor Abdallah, then Deputy Mayor.
So this is another idea that the PBA has to bring more people downtown and to spruce up Shamrock Park. There's future plans for that also. And it's just like Councillor Reevy was saying, great idea. People can come down and have some fun and practice social distancing. So I think it's a worthwhile cause. And one of the merchants downtown, one of the owners of Crazy Beautiful Dresses, has volunteered to maintain it for the PBA at no charge. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering what is meant by downtown maintenance budget. I guess what I'm wondering is does that mean the PBIA budget, or does that mean a city budget? And just also curious as to if there is vandalism, whose budget is being tapped for that, and what would the response time? I'm asking those questions because while I'm not trying to stand in the way of the PBIA trying to take on novel ways of doing things in the downtown, I guess what my concern is, knowing recently issues with tagging and so forth, I'm just trying to look at the money aspect of what this request is about.
Ron, would you like to respond to that?
Sure, Madam Chair. Well, we have a downtown maintenance budgets for maintenance issues. In order to install this initial part of the project, we could use some of those funds that we currently have. Now, the ongoing issue, as the Deputy Mayor brought forward, it does make sense. Who's going to be responsible in the event that it does get tagged, get damaged? So maybe that's another thing we need to discuss with the PBIA, despite the great initiative that they're bringing forward.
So we have a motion and we have a seconder, but would we let that motion stand contingent on Ron working out that maintenance, ironing out the agreement a little more to determine who would be responsible for vandalism? So I'm asking the mover and the seconder. So I think, okay, so I think generally we have the support of committee. So I would say we're going to call the question, but it's contingent on Ron actually ironing out those details and just reporting to committee at a later date. Okay. So I'll call the question. All in favor? And it is carried. So Ron, if you could discuss that, maybe just communicate with the rest of council on that. Thank you. Moving to the next item, Santa Claus Parade 2020. And Santa will be wearing a mask, I hope, this year. So, Ron?
Okay, Madam Chair, staff are recommending that committee approve the cancellation of the annual traditional Santa Claus Parade due to the COVID-19 and the restrictions on outdoor gatherings. So unfortunately, due to COVID-19, it's not possible to have their traditional outdoor parade as per previous years. Restrictions on the numbers permitted to be outside do not warrant a parade. Staff have contacted the Renfrew County Health Unit to discuss the matter, and they have indicated that restrictions would still be limited to the current 100 people outside. Staff are currently working on a drive-through type parade at Riverside Park to allow the opportunity to see parade floats parked with various Christmas themes. Restrictions on the number of people on the floats and volunteers would still count towards the current restrictions. More announcements, should committee approve it, would be forthcoming on this initiative very shortly. Any costs associated with the drive-through parade would come out of our annual Christmas or Santa Claus Parade budget, and the tentative date would be Saturday, November 28th, which is usually the last Saturday in November.
Councillor Abdallah, then Councillor Reevy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was introduced to this idea a few weeks ago, the drive-through parade. And Councillor Friend, you and I have had the honor of chairing hosting the parade on Cogeco for the last couple of years. You for many years. It's unfortunate, but it's necessary. It's better to be safe than sorry. We know how many people in Pembroke and from Laurentian Valley and the surrounding communities come to Pembroke to see the parade. It's just not a safe thing. We had to turn down a pond hockey tournament that we discussed having possibly this winter. We're asking the person to come next year with the idea because we just don't know what's going to happen. The numbers are not going down. And the idea that programmer Ms. Frederick at the Parks and Recreation Office and other staff have come up with, I know she mentioned to me they're doing it down east in one of the major cities. It's a phenomenal idea. We'll still have a form of a parade. It'll be at Riverside Park drive-through, and Santa Claus will still come. So I'd like to move that we accept the recommendation to move the parade to a drive-through parade at Riverside Park. Thank you.
So we have a mover, and then we had Councillor Reevy for a comment. Would you like to second that motion, Councillor Reevy? Okay, second and a comment.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, it's a great idea. I mean, we need to keep life moving here, and it speaks really well of staff that they are coming up with these initiatives in a time where we have to be so creative, I guess, to have some semblance of normal. So yeah, I'm happy to absolutely second this and anxious to see how it turns out.
If I could make a comment from the chair, I was watching a news feature last night on CTV, and it was showing a community that's going to do drive-through Halloween, or they've done it already, but they have it would be as if Riverside Park was set up as a spook yard, and people drive through, and then there's different stations where they actually have zombies and throwing candy in the car. It was really impressive. So I can see this could be similar if they were set up on even the trailer sites, and then you had a route for people to go and keep their distance. That might be fun. Yeah, so thank you very much. So we have a mover and a seconder. If there's no more comments or questions, I will call the question. All in favor? It's approved that staff look at some other option to the regular Santa Claus parade. Thank you. Next item. This is a new addition to the original agenda, so it is a request for use. Ron?
Okay, Madam Chair, thank you again. So staff is seeking direction on a request by Mr. Joe Ward of Joe's Pizzeria to utilize 2 vacant city lots for patio use in the western section of downtown. Should committee be in agreement in principle, staff would work with Mr. Ward on the particulars i.e. developing a lease, size, location of the patio, building permits, cleanup, and etc. So Mr. Joe Ward, owner of Joe's Family Pizzeria, approached City Hall on the possibility of building a raised deck on 2 city-owned lots located at 274 and 262 Pembroke Street West. The deck would include a full fence around 2 sides and the back to help beautify the area. The size is proposed currently at 75 feet by 75 feet. The patio would be used for visitors to the downtown to have a place to sit after picking up meals from the downtown restaurants. As well, the patio could be used for entertainment during special events such as Fiddle Week. Mr. Ward indicated that he hopes to have this project completed for the May long weekend of 2021. He's also hopeful that the properties would be leased from the city to him for a nominal fee to remain a community patio for an initial 3-year period. The PBIA was contacted by Mr. Ward, and although there's no interest in being involved from a liability standpoint or overall responsibility perspective, they may be interested in assisting with the cleanup and promotion. Mr. Ward would be required to provide liability insurance, naming the city as co-insured if council is in agreement with his proposal. And at this time, based on his proposals, there's no financial commitment required from the city.
Okay, I see 2 with their hand up. I'm not sure. I'll go to Councillor Reeby first.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Boy, this has certainly been a feel-good agenda. I love this idea, and Mr. Ward is just a spectacular contributor to our community, has been for years, and I see this as a valuable way to bring people together in the downtown, which I have noticed of late has really seen a lot of traffic, a lot of people traffic. So this is just another move forward for them. So I'm happy to accept staff recommendation on going forward with this patio.
Okay, thank you. Did we need a motion on that? Yeah, so I would accept that as a motion. Okay, so moved by Councillor Reevy. Councillor Abdallah?
So I'm going to second the motion and then add a comment. When I met with Mr. Ward in the summertime, you can see the passion that he has for the downtown. We all know he's a great marketer, and you know, his idea for that patio is to help out the businesses in that end of town. If COVID's still around in the spring, even if it's not, people can go to that patio and eat there, and then community events, as his letter indicates, can be used. One thing about that end of town, when the PBA have events, they're all centralized in front of Bob's Music. So the idea that we discussed in the PBA is to hopefully, you know, once the patio is up and running, is to have events at that end of the town and hook up some power there. So that's the idea also. It won't be any cost to the city. And I discussed with Mr. Ward the possibility of, if we ever got a grant or something for Wi-Fi down that way, or sponsorship. But he's raring to go. He was ready to go in the summertime, but he needed the city's approval, because you can't have volunteers in there because of the liability insurance by the insuring company. So I'd second it with great confidence in Mr. Ward and the community to come together and turn a vacant lot into something worthwhile, and to make the downtown and have another destination point.
Deputy Mayor, then Councillor Plummer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So certainly, I think we all recognize that Mr. Ward has done a number of great things in our community and is usually one of the first to step to the plate to sponsor different events and so forth. But if I may, Madam Chair, through you, a number of different questions for staff that I guess comes to mind when I read the report. The first one is, like many instances, that when the city of Pembroke has someone wanting to do something, we usually have them wanting to, or at least the city usually wants the premises to be returned to the pre-condition. And I guess in this particular case, there's not much there other than a concrete slab. But if there's improvements being made to it, I guess my first question, and I'll just run them off, and I'm sure that Mr. Lapierre can remember them or jot them down and address them. But anyways, that it would be returned to the precondition, meaning that if there's different decks being built and so forth, that the decks would be removed and it would be brought to the same condition. So that's, and maybe all these different items would be addressed in the lease, but I'm raising it. So that's the first one. The second one is can anyone use these decks being constructed? So even though it may be Mr. Ward that's putting forward this plan and so forth, can anyone use it? And then if so, who is the one that's being responsible for dealing with what I expect to happen, which is some individuals wanting to loiter there? So that's the second one. The third one is, would a lease have a quick termination provision in it so that if a developer, and I'm hoping that the day comes where a developer comes forward and wants to buy those off the city of Pembroke, that in a very short time span, whether it be a month or what have you, that Mr. Ward has to remove what he's put there to enable the property to be sold and for buildings to be constructed, which is what I'm hopeful for at some point, so that, again, more taxes and so forth. And last but not least is, if the understanding is that we are leasing it for nominal consideration, does staff have an idea in terms of the bonusing question that we always get faced with? And maybe there's something that I'm just not thinking of tonight, but how do we address the bonusing issue?
I don't know if Ron can answer any of those concerns at this point. I'll ask Mr. Lapierre.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, these items would all be dealt with in a lease that would have to be developed and would come back to committee. What we're looking for this evening is a agreement or approval in principle, so staff can then meet with Mr. Ward and develop those things in the lease. And then he knows that he can move forward with respect to gathering volunteers, contractors, et cetera, that he knows that he's got the support of council. So regarding pre-existing, absolutely, we can put that in there, that any improvements that are made would be removed, you know, being the decking, et cetera. Public use, I think we're going to have to further discuss that. My understanding, and we haven't had a lot of conversation with Mr. Ward, but my understanding is that it's to be used for the public during the daytime to get their lunch at his restaurant, anybody's restaurant downtown, or bring your own lunch and just have a place to go and sit at that end of the downtown, as well as also the potential for programming. If there's special events, as they've mentioned, during Fiddle Week, you know, you can have some music going there. So daytime type of activities. I don't believe that he's thinking of it in the evening as far as loitering. So he would be leasing it. So I would suggest it would be his responsibility to ensure that people are abiding by whatever the rules that would be posted there. But we have to have some further discussion with him on that. With respect to termination, if we were to sell the lot, I've already had that discussion with him early on, that is our intent, is to sell that property so that a building can be built there. We get tax assessment, create some employment, and get some more traffic to that end of the downtown. He's aware of that, so he's just asked if a lease could be for a certain term at the beginning, just to get something going and get traffic moving to that end of town. But he understands that is the intent, to eventually sell the property. And as far as bonusing, I would think that we'd be okay, as it would be a partnership with the municipality, and there's different programming. The PBIA, as is in the report, they would play a role in helping to promote and maybe even to clean it up, because there's all those things that have to be considered, right? If there's going to be people using it, there's going to be litter, that's got to be kept clean. And I know that Mr. Ward's sort of thinking that way, but I don't foresee an issue with bonusing. And the nominal amount we were talking about was like $1, you know, and he's providing the insurance, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, no more questions. Oh, sorry, Councillor Plummer?
My question's already been answered by point number 3 from the deputy mayor. What are we going to do if someone decides to purchase that property? So that's already been addressed, and I guess it'll be addressed in the lease. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So I will call the question. All in favor? That's approved. Thank you. And seeing nothing else on this agenda, I would like to just speak from the chair for I'll just make a comment, and then I'll let Councillor Abdallah make a comment. I want to say thanks to Ron and the Recreation Department and whoever was working with the people down at the skateboard park, because I did drive by there the other day, and it seems to be well used again, but distancing was happening. I didn't see a lot of loitering, which was great. And so I think that a lot of the items we discussed tonight, like the Santa Claus parade, and I think we're going to try to keep people active in our community as long as they're adhering to the safety requirements and distancing, and we'll all get through this. So, Councillor Abdallah, you had a final comment?
No, I just have a point of order. Did we approve the minutes from the last meeting?
Yes. Oh,
I don't
I'm
think
sorry,
so.
the meeting agenda was approved. Okay, so could I please have a motion to approve the Parks and Recreation Committee minutes from September 15th? Sorry. Moved by Councillor Abdallah, seconded by Councillor Reevy. All in favor? Approved. Thank you. So I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Plummer. All in favor? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Operations Committee to order for October 20th, 2020. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest this evening? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as circulated. I have Councillor Reevy, seconded by Councillor Abdallah. Those in favor? That's carried. Next up is approval of the minutes, and it's for the Operations Committee of September 15th, 2020, again having been circulated. Moved by His Worship, seconded by Councillor Frenier. Those in favor? And that's carried. Under new business, first up, we welcome Mr. Lewis. We have waste collection schedule.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Operations Department recommends committee approve basically a status quo collection schedule for the 2021 and 2022 calendar. Work is progressing to coordinate the 2021-22 waste collection calendars between the municipal partners and the collection contractor in consultation with the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center. If agreeable with committee, I will review each specific waste stream, the department's recommendation, and ask for a decision before I move on with the next waste stream. It might be a little easier that way.
Yeah, I see heads nodding, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we'll start with the Christmas tree collection. The city has previously opted out of the Christmas tree collection program by Miller Waste, but we have reserved the right to reconsider participating, so we could go back to having Miller complete this pickup if that was the decision. Present collection contract does provide for one Christmas tree collection event for Christmas of 2020 at a cost of $2,642.94 per ton, for an estimated cost of just under $6,000, and that's based on the 2020 tonnages, which works out to about $24.29 a tree. At the November 20th, 2018 Operations Committee meeting, committee approved a 2-day Christmas tree collection using city forces. That was for Christmas of 2019. Collection was extended to a 3-day event, just due to other O&M maintenance activities that needed to happen. City forces collected 2.27 tons of tree that equated to about 247 trees for a total cost of $3,842.12. Works out to about $15.56 a tree. For Christmas of 2020, tree collection will take place by operations forces on January 11th, 12th, and 13th. The Operations Department recommends a status quo for the next calendar, being a 3-day Christmas tree collection event for Christmas of 2021 using city forces, and that collection will start on Monday, January January 10th of 2022 and go through Wednesday, January 12th of 2022.
Okay, and so following what Mr. Lewis has asked for, comments and motions dealing with Christmas trees. Councillor Plummer?
I would agree with staff saying that we continue with status quo. I think is a good way to collect trees. If we went back to Miller Waste, seeing it only a 1-day event, stuck with many Christmas trees not getting put out on that exact day, and the city staff will be able to collect the trees on their own anyway. So status quo with that.
Okay, and I'm taking that as a motion. Now I have Councillor Abdallah with his hand up.
The motion, and I have a comment or a question through the chair for Mr. Lewis. I was talking to the deputy mayor the other day about the tree collection. Can you comment on the cost of the old way of doing it, so people know if people used to drop their trees off at the marina, and then the city would shred them, and about fertilizer not being that great? Can you comment on that, the cost?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the past, the Christmas trees used to be used. The city had some use for those trees, albeit temporarily. There used to be a snowmobile drag race, if I remember correctly, on the marina down just off of the Marina Basin, and they used to line that track with the Christmas trees. There used to be other events down in the waterfront area where some of the trees were used. It made sense to collect them at that central location, use them for the city event, and then we would deal with them after that.
To operate a central facility to have people drop off their Christmas trees could be problematic. Concern is, are we just going to get Christmas trees? Or are we going to get other brush, garbage, and trees as well? If residents are having difficulty getting their Christmas trees out to the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center, they may also have difficulty getting them down to the waterfront area, and we could still be stuck with trees in the snowbanks. As far as cost is concerned, it costs about $5,000 to deal with them when they're at the waterfront and mulch them and shred them up. And as you had mentioned, Councillor Abdallah, the material is not great for mulch. It's very acidic, being pine and evergreen trees. So it's not of great use for any of our city use. Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, if I can just simply say this one thing, that I agree with what Councillor Plummer is saying, that as between the contractor and the city, by far it's the most economical way of doing it. I still find it frustrating that if you can purchase a tree and bring it home, I don't understand why you can't bring it to the Waste Recovery Center. But in any event, call the question. Those in favor of that motion that's on the table? And that's carried. Okay, next one up, Mr. Lewis, in your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Large item collection is the next item in the report. Just a reminder to all, large item collection service is only for residential properties. Twice a year, we do it in the spring and again in the fall. The City of Pembroke provides residential properties with curbside collection of large household items. Appliances, scrap metal, and electronic waste are collected separately for recycling. All other acceptable large items are collected in landfill. Miller Waste provides this collection over 1 week. They do it the same week for all 3 partner municipalities. The Operations Department recommends a status quo, being a spring large item collection event the week after the long weekend in May. So that would be Monday, May 31st through Wednesday, June 2nd. And a large item collection in the fall, being the week after the long weekend in September. That would be Monday, September 13th through Wednesday, September 15th.
Councillor Abdallah?
So motion to accept the status quo on the large item collection.
Okay. And Councillor Reevy?
I'll second that.
Second it. Okay, any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? And that's carried. Okay. Mr.
Moving
Lewis?
to the next item, Mr. Chair, leaf and yard waste collection. The collection contract provides for 2 weeks in the spring and 3 weeks in the fall. These weeks are staggered. We do that to help alleviate some of the past issues we've had in the past with unpredictable fall weather. It normally happens in the fall. Excuse me. If spring arrives late with 1 week notice, we can have Miller Waste accommodate us with an additional leaf and yard waste in and around June. The extra cost is $197.75 an hour plus HST, and we only have that additional collection done on organics or fiber collection weeks. So the Operations Department recommends a status quo. 2 staggered leaf and yard waste collections in the spring of 2021, being the first full week of May, Monday, May 3rd through Wednesday, May 5th, and the 3rd full week of May being Monday, May 17th through Wednesday, May 19th. In the fall, 3 staggered weeks, the week after the long weekend in October being Monday, October 18th through Wednesday, October 20th, the 2nd week in November being Monday, November 8th through Wednesday, November 10th, and the 3rd week of that collection would be the 4th week of November, being November 22nd through November 24th, 2021. And I will need a motion on that recommendation.
Councillor Reevy, are you moving it?
Yes, I am. I think it worked well this year, especially for the May collection. People were home due to COVID, had their yards cleaned. That worked well. And I like the additional time in November because I think it accommodates people that do go hunting. So I move that we go status quo recommendation.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Councillor Plummer, any other discussion? Councillor Giacono?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry I was delayed for the meeting. My internet was interrupted by a flock of geese. However, I had a question from a couple of concerned citizens in regards to our regular green card pickup. They wanted to know why Laurentian Valley and Petawawa has the weekly pickup till the end of September, and we do not. They felt that it may be advantageous to, have their leaves put in there because it's the fall season. I just like to ask that question while we're sort of on this topic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Giacono. Perhaps if we can call the question on the leaf and yard waste, and when we get to the green bin collection, Mr. Lewis can comment on that, Councillor Giacono. If that's agreeable. Okay, so I'll call the question in respect to the leaf and yard waste. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Mr. Lewis, when you're dealing with the green bin collection, if you can also address Councillor Giacono's question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will. The contract provides for green bin collection every other week from September through May, and weekly collection in the summer months, June, July, and August. This is proposed to continue for 2021. Petawawa provides weekly collection of green bins from May through October, and as mentioned, Township of Laurentian Valley provides for weekly collection of green bins for June, July, and August. They have added an extra month recently for collection this September 2020, and they received a lot of feedback, and they are considering doing that again for next year to have that extra month. The city of Pembroke hasn't gone to that as of yet, to add that extra month of weekly collection. The intent of the green bin program originally was for organic wastes. And those organic wastes are mainly your food compost materials. So stuff that's coming out of the house and going into the green bin. It's sent out to the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center. It's processed and made into topsoil. The green bin program was never originally developed for leaf and yard waste. It wasn't meant to use for your plants in the backyard and your leaves and so forth. It is being used for that. The green bin is being used for that quite a bit. And hence the request for a longer season of the green bin. So we have not progressed to that as of yet. It is something to be considered, and I'll continue on with my report. And hopefully it'll be addressed then as far as cost is concerned, and then there could be some discussion then. So we do receive requests at the city as well for additional green bins or for an extended period of time for green bin use. To add an additional green bin to a property, if a person wanted a second green bin for that extra leaf and yard waste they may be putting into the green bin, the city adds a cost of an additional unit for collection for the residents, and the residents don't typically want to pay for that additional unit of collection. Alternately, we can have the collection contractor do additional collection for us during the months of May, September, or October. And there is a incremental cost to that at $197.75 an hour plus HST. In the report, I've got into the calculation that goes along with that. It needs to be noted that green bin can only be collected during the organics and fiber collection weeks, and that's due to the way the trucks are set up and the streams that can be collected in the trucks. So based on the 2019-2020 tonnages, the cost of 2 additional weeks of green bin collection, so that would extend weekly collection for a month in either of the months of May, September, or October, is estimated at $31,000. So $31,000 gets 2 additional collections for that month. That includes tipping fees and our net HST. Another alternative, Miller Waste is able to provide additional leaf and yard waste collections during the months of June through October. Again, the rate is $197.75 an hour. The cost of 2 additional weeks of leaf and yard is approximately $27,000. It's slightly lower, not substantially. There is no tipping fees involved when leaf and yard waste goes out to the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center, but unfortunately, it's not as easy to pick up 10 or 20 bags of leaf and yard waste at curbside as it is to pick up 1 green bin So the amount of time and the fact that we're being charged by the hour for the truck and the staff, it increases that cost. So the operations department is recommending status quo for green bin collection every other week from September through May, and every week June through August.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lewis. Councillor Abdallah and Councillor Plummer.
I move that we accept the operations department recommendation of status quo for the green bin collection schedule.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Abdallah. Do I have a seconder for that before I move over to Councillor Plummer? So Councillor Reevy, are you seconding it?
Yes, I'll second it for a discussion, but I also have a comment. I'll wait till after Councillor Plum.
Yes.
Plummer.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Plummer?
Thank you. Sitting on the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Board, just a bit of info for some people if they don't know. Anything that goes in the green card has to be processed inside the building in the MRF, and that has to go through a process and then stored in the outdoor pads, heated to a set degree to killing pathogens. So it adds a lot of extra costs on the facility itself. When you collect just leaf and yard waste, it goes direct to pad, and then it's composted from there. So we definitely want to make sure that we don't overload the green bins with our leaf and yard waste. So I would be full in support of the motion of status quo.
Okay, Councillor Reevy?
Yeah, like Councillor Jagno, I was contacted too by a resident who was requesting additional weekly green card pickup in September. And of course, the cost is very seemingly prohibitive. His reasoning was because people typically beginning of September are starting to clear out the perennial gardens, perhaps maybe some annuals, but as Councillor Plummer has just mentioned, ideally they shouldn't be going in the green cart anyhow. You know, this gentleman was saying he doesn't like having water soaked leaf and yard waste bags hanging around till October. I can totally understand that, but it's not really worth the 31,000. So thank you.
Okay, Councillor Abdallah and Councillor Jacquino.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I've been contacted by a few residents, and I've seen around town some big branches sticking out of bins and leaves in them. And I just don't think the cost warrants the extra 2 weeks, you know, 15,000 and whatever a week extra. So I think we just accept the status quo.
Okay, Councillor Jacquino?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Based on the information from Mr. Lewis, I think we have to stick with the status quo. And, you know, as Councillor Plummer said, it goes directly to PAD. It doesn't influence the, you know, the cost prohibitive other alternatives. So I think we have to stick with the status quo and with logic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other comments or questions, I'll call the question. Those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Mr. Lewis, mobile hazard and special waste events.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The cost to the city of Pembroke is minimal for these special events, as they are part of the operation of the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center. They have a third-party contractor retained to do these events, and that third-party contractor retains the profits through various provincial programs. So the operations department recommends the status quo, with the first event for 2021 on Saturday, May 8th at the Petawawa Civic Center. The second event on Saturday, June 5th at the Pembroke Area Community Center. And the third event on Saturday, August 28th at Rockwood School in Laurentian Valley. Just to note, previously scheduled events for 2020, they did have to be canceled due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. And we'll wait until we get a little closer to the event dates for 2021 to see if any changes need to be made. I'll need a motion on that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lewis. Do I have a motion? Councillor Reevy?
Status quo.
Okay, and Councillor Plummer?
I second the motion for status quo.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. And last but not least, Mr. Lewis, we have the garbage topic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The contract provides for a maximum of 4 bags or containers every other week. Typically, a single residential dwelling in the city of Pembroke put out between 2 and 4 garbage bags or containers, and the department is recommending status quo. Garbage collection every other week with no change in quantity.
Okay, thank you. Your worship?
I'll move with status quo.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Councillor Lafreniere, any comments? Seeing none, those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Did you want to discuss financial implication or move?
My only comment there, Mr. Chair, was with no changes to the status quo, there will be no adverse financial implications. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up, Mr. Lewis, is road occupancy and road cut bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Operations Department seeks direction with respect to the bylaw to regulate road occupancies and road cuts on city streets. I had brought a report to committee on September 11th. The purpose of this report is to update on some of the information that we've been able to obtain and to ask for motions on a few of the items so that we can finalize a draft bylaw and get that off for short form wording. And the bylaw itself would come back to committee at a future meeting. What I'd like to do, Mr. Chair, if possible, is I'll quickly go through each item. Some of the items do not require a motion or a decision of council. The decision has already been made, so I'll skip through those ones fairly quickly, and then I'll pause on the items that staff have a recommendation on and allow for some discussion. Is that good?
Yes?
Okay, thank you. Starting with item number 1, establishing a road occupancy and road cut permit. So staff was directed by committee to establish a road occupancy and road cut permit, and the bylaw will include that. So we are moving forward with that part. Item number 2, implementing a permit fee. The Operations Committee directed staff to move forward with looking at a permit fee. Staff recommend a permit fee of $25 to offset administrative costs. And we base that fee on a number of comparators. The town of Arnprior is at 20. City of Ottawa goes up as high as $465. The city of Greater Sudbury is at 40. There are some areas that do not charge a permit fee. Our main comparators that the city uses on a regular basis, some of those areas do not have a road occupancy or road cut bylaw in place, so they were unable to give us any information regarding that. So I would like, if at all possible, to get a motion on implementing that fee and that amount.
Okay, I have Councillor Abdallah and Councillor Plummer.
Motion as per the recommended fee.
Okay, Councillor Plummer?
I second that. The $25 fee seems appropriate.
Okay, Councillor Jacquinot? Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? And that's carried. Okay. Mr. Lewis, item number 3.
Yeah, item number 3, sorry, Mr. Chair. Item number 3 is requiring an inspection fee, refundable security deposit, and or a degradation fee for road cuts. So I'll go through our 3 recommendations and then come back for discussion. Staff recommend an inspection fee of $50. Again, that's to offset the cost of staff doing the inspections. So when you combine the inspection with the permit fee, it would total $75 based on the recommendation that staff have. We're recommending a inspection fee of the $50. The inspection fee will only be charged to the utilities as needed. So if a utility company is doing a utility connection in the ditch line, in the grassed area, in the boulevard area, and they don't cut into the road, they don't cut into major sidewalk or anything of that nature, there will be no inspection fee for those. This will be mainly inspection fees for road cuts or major surface works. The recommendation of $50 is based on a few comparators that we could find. Arnprior's inspection fee is $55. The town of Milton's inspection fee is $199. We did not quote the city of Ottawa's inspection fee because it's extremely high compared to what we would need here for cost recovery. So we didn't put that in the report. So that's the inspection fee. I'll go through the other two before we go back for decision. Refundable security deposits. So these deposits would be refundable. The city would hold these deposits. It would be the intent to hold the deposit until the permit expires. We'll get into the expiry of the permit a little later on, but the refundable security would be held until that permit expires. We are recommending similar to what the town of Arnprior's refundable security deposits are, with road asphalt being $45 a square meter, sidewalk at $100 a square meter, curb at $120 a lineal meter, and lawn being topsoil and sod at $45 a square meter. Those would be the values that we would start with. We would recalculate those values based on present value each year, and we'd post those values on the website so people are aware what their security deposit would be. And we'd base the actual total on estimated quantities. We wouldn't necessarily have those quantities at the time of permit application. Restoration sometimes can get a little larger, a little smaller, but we'd have to make some sort of assumption on an estimated value. The amount of the refundable security deposit was based on review of the town of Milton's. Town of Milton has a 100%. They do a calculation after the work is done, and they ask for 100% of that cost. City of Ottawa uses a lump sum of $3,000, and Port Hope's refundable securities are $2,060. Also included in this item is non-refundable degradation fees. This is based on degradation of the asphalt. We're not considering this for curb work, minor curb work, or sidewalks, lawn, that kind of stuff. It's just if there's a cut in the asphalt, and it's to help compensate the city for the future roadworks that would be required and rehabilitation of that asphalt. So we have proposed non-refundable degradation fees as included in the table that I provided, 3 or less years since the road was constructed at $40 a square meter. And then it goes all the way down to 10 to 15 years old, $6.97 a square meter. If the asphalt's over 15 years old, we're not asking for a degradation fee. At that point, it's close to its estimated useful life anyway, and we're not going to charge a degradation fee. So we did look at the City of Ottawa's degradation fees. They're between $37 and $6.15 a square meter. Greater Sudbury is $44.50 down to $7.75 if the road is more than 10 years old. Neither of those comparators have the cutoff at 0 that we are recommending, but I believe that's appropriate for our area. And I just wanted to put an example out there so that it's understood how this would be calculated. So if Company X performs a road cut 7 meters by 2 meters on a road, they would pay a $75 non-refundable administration fee. That's the permit fee and the inspection fee. They would pay refundable security deposits, and we'd calculate that based on the estimated square meters and the cost of restoration at the time calculated annually. And then if the road was resurfaced in less than 3 years, the non-refundable degradation fee would be $560 based on that $40 a square meter. So that's the highest unit price. So the total non-refundable fees would be $635 for that particular cut. So that's my portion of the report on item number 3. And if I could get some discussion going on those 3, Mr. Chair, it would be great.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lewis. Who wants to go? Councillor Frennier.
So to simplify it, if they're doing a road cut, they have to get a permit, they have to have an inspection, and pay a fee. They have to restore the road at their cost, in other words, and they have to pay degradation fees depending on the age of the road, right? So that kind of sums it all up, right? They have to pay the full restoration costs. That's my only question. I know you have it all in here, but I'm just kind of trying to summarize it all. So basically, they got to get a permit, they got to get an inspection, they have to restore the road at their expense. That's what that security is. And then they also pay the degradation fee, right?
That is correct.
Okay, I'm just trying to summarize it all, make it simple. So I support it all. I support all the recommendations that staff has made on this item. And I'd be prepared to put forward a motion.
Okay, thank you. Then I have Councillor Abdallah.
So I'll second the motion that Councillor Lafreniere made.
Okay, Councillor Reevy? No comment. Councillor Giacono?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with what is being said, but is this the dog chasing its tail? I mean, we're going to charge a contractor X number of dollars for degradation fee, who in turn will down the road bid on a contract within the city's confines. And technically, you know, if he's had a number of those, he'll probably going to add that back into his cost to recoup the profit. Or am I out of whack here?
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Chair, yes, on the odd occasion, if a contractor is doing the work, but in most cases, the contractor is working for someone else. These fees will be charged to the property owner for those that are doing the cut. So if it's a developer that is looking to connect to water and sewer services for a particular development in the city of Pembroke, it's the developer that will pay these fees, not necessarily the contractor. The contractor is going to get the restoration work hired by the developer. The rest of it is charged to the developer. If that answered your question, Councillor Giacono?
Councillor Giacono? Yes, okay, that does answer Councillor Giacono's question. Okay, I saw another hand. Or not. Okay, we call the question. Those in favor then? Okay, that's carried. Okay, Mr. Lewis, that one was carried. Number 4, item 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So number 4, excuse me. Committee approved implementing a 12-month warranty period. And we base that warranty period on the Ontario Provincial Standard Specifications. So that is a warranty period that's used clear across the province for all on Ontario works, as well as municipal works. So we're going to stick with that 12-month. Item number 5, road cuts on recently constructed roads. As part of my last report to committee, committee directed that we have a permit applicant come to committee and council if the road is less than 3 calendar years old. So if there is a fairly new road that a developer or someone needs to do a cut into, they will have to approach committee and council in advance to get permission to do that. So the moratorium that is in place now remains in place. Item number 6 allows for exemption for utilities from the permit. So that was approved by committee the last time I brought this report. So that's basically to allow the utility companies to continue to do what they need to do to service the residents of the city of Pembroke. They won't be charged a permit fee. They will be charged degradation fees. They will be charged inspection fees. In a lot of cases, the utility companies are using directional drilling and other non-invasive techniques to put their utilities in place. So even the degradation fees and such should not affect them as much. Item number 7 is regarding penalties. At this point, we still don't have those penalties developed. We will develop a penalty should somebody act without an application approved or a permit in place. And we'll take those through short form wording process to the Ministry of Attorney General, and then we'll be bringing them back with the bylaw committee. Item number 8 was the review period. That was basically how much time staff has to review the applications that are coming in, and that was approved at 7 days. The last thing in the report, Mr. Chair, that I'll require decision on is regarding the expiration date or the expiry date of the permits. Staff is recommending road cut permits expire after 1 year from the date of the original approval of the application As I discussed before, that gives the applicant time to complete the works, complete the restoration, and move on with their development. It also helps us protect our road allowance from those utility companies that may want to put a permit in place and let it sit there for quite some time, and then another utility company may not be able to get in and do their works. So 1 year from the applicant. Staff is also recommending that that road cut restoration be included in the permit application. So if it's a late fall work and the applicant is unable due to weather to restore that cut, we will be asking for temporary restoration work. So in most cases, these type of applications are coming to us not long before they're being done. We'll have a general idea of whether or not we think we can or they can get the restoration completed in time. And we can write into that application that they will need to do temporary restoration and then come back in the spring and do the proper restoration. The other recommendation for expiry dates is that if they don't start the work within 60 days, their permit will expire. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so on item number 9, discussions or motions. Councillor Abdallah? We can't hear you, Councillor Abdallah.
Oh,
There we go.
sorry. Motion to accept the recommendation on expiration dates.
So the two different aspects that were recommended by by Mr. Lewis, you're moving those two, right? I still can't.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
That's correct. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. We got that now. Do I have Councillor Jacquino?
I would second that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Frenier?
We were talking about expiration dates?
Yes, there's two of them. One is how long, and then the other one is if they don't start to do the work. So the two aspects, and as I understand, the motion is to go with the two that were recommended by staff.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to comment on number 8, review period. So if we could just go back to that when this is done.
Okay,
Thank you.
certainly. So is there any other comments on number 9 before I call the question? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Councillor Frenier, returning to item number 8, the review period. You had a comment?
So 7 days for staff to review with vacation and that type of thing. Do you not see a problem with 7 days, giving staff 7 days? Because I don't know how many inspectors we would have, and if you get into vacation time, I'm addressing this to Brian. Can you answer that? 7 days?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, the review period is for reviewing the permit application. So that's 7 working days from the time the application is placed on a desk here at the city, at the operations department, until we send it back to the applicant and give them an answer. It does not include times for inspecting or any of that nature. It's basically to allow, be it a developer or property owner, anybody that needs to do a cut to advance with their work as quickly as possible without holding them up with a long drawn out review period. As far as vacations is concerned, typically a week off is the 5 working days, and the staff member would be returning the next day, hence why we went to a 7-day to kind of overlap those weeks.
I just know that a lot of people take 2 weeks vacation, so I'm just saying, is there someone that's going to check? We're going to be more than one staff, because it's not unusual for people to take 2 weeks.
Okay. Mr. Lewis?
So through our existing process here at the operations department, we review these as MCs, municipal consent. We provide municipal consent to various utility companies. The process that's in place right now is we have the applicants going to 3 different desks here at the operations department. So there would always be somebody that would take it and move it forward.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Lewis, did you want to finish with your report under this item?
I think the only comment, Mr. Chair, is that the financial implications, we are unable at this time to be able to develop what this may bring in. It would depend on a busy season, not a busy season, and how many applicants we have. So I can't comment any further on that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lewis, and I want to just say that I appreciate how you've structured the report, because there's a lot of information there, and so by breaking it down into subcategories, it certainly assists myself in terms of reviewing what it is that you're looking for. Okay, next up, if we can deal with engineering design contract administration services regarding Bennett Street, 5C.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Operations Department recommends the following. Committee approve award for engineering design and contract administration services for Bennett Street water main construction, RFP number P-20-09 to McIntosh Perry Consulting Engineers Limited in the amount of $55,133 plus HST. Committee approve additional expenditures in the amount of $5,600 for contingency allowance. Total value of the recommendations equals $60,733 plus applicable HST. We did an invitational request for proposal for this particular project. We provided that invitation to 4 proponents. The RFP closed on September 24th. We received 2 proposals. The proposals were reviewed and evaluated by a panel of 3, consisting of myself, the Supervisor of Capital Works, and the Supervisor of Water Distribution and Wastewater Collection. All scoring was done individually by the panel members, and the scoring to recommend a proponent was monitored by the Deputy Treasurer. Proposals were reviewed and evaluated in accordance with the following predetermined criteria: past projects or performance 40%, project schedule 10%, and project cost and fees 50%. It's a reduced list, Mr. Chair, based on the fact that we were inviting these proponents. We've worked with them in the past and we know their history. We know the work that they do, so we were less concerned on the staffing part of the evaluation and who they would put on the project. The recommendation included was derived by using the highest score based on the average of the evaluators, and it is included in the attached matrix. Based on the review, the evaluation committee believes McIntosh and Perry Consulting Engineers proposal offers the best value for the project. There was 1 subcontractor noted in the proposals provided, and that was Gemtech Consulting Engineers. They're a geotechnical firm in the area that does work in the air. On to the financial implications. As part of the 2020 capital budget, a budget of $50,000 was identified for the Melton Street water main replacement. Within the past 2 years, and as everyone is aware, twice within the last 3 to 4 months, the water main on Bennett Street has failed, causing traffic disruptions, damaged infrastructure, and the need for additional road repairs. Due to the frequency and considering the poor condition of the pipe that's been noted when we did those repairs, the water main on Bennett Street is deemed a higher priority than Melton Street, hence why we're moving that money. Pursuant to bylaw 2020-26, giving the CAO the authority to deviate from council-approved bylaw and policies, and after discussing the matter with the city's executive committee, the funds for the Melton Street water main replacement project were reallocated to the Bennett Street water main replacement. The above includes the future award of contract administration services to McIntosh Perry based on quoted values in their proposal, and that will only be awarded when the construction contracts are awarded. When we add the necessary contingency allowance, the design costs with net HST, the total cost is $61,703.34, and that represents, unfortunately, a budget shortfall of $11,703.34. The shortfall can be funded from the HP is High Presscon concrete water main valve replacement phase 1 project. And we're doing that, or recommending that, specifically because there is a valve replacement on Boundary Road as part of the Bennett Street program, Bennett Street project that would be looked at and dealt with under the HP concrete water main valve replacement project anyway. Construction contracts will be brought to committee and council for award when design and tendering are complete. And construction budgets will be put into the 2021 capital budget for council consideration. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Discussions, comments, motions. Councillor Abdallah.
Motion to accept the recommendation of awarding the contract to McIntosh Perry Consulting Engineers Limited.
Okay, and Councillor Abdallah, I take it in your motion that you're asking that the shortfall be funded from where Mr. Lewis suggests, which is the HB Concrete Water Main Valve Replacement Phase 1 project?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Reevy?
I'll second that motion as well.
Okay, any discussion? Councillor Frenier?
So we just had the Bennett Street Bridge, that's probably not what you call it. That's what I call it. That was just reconstructed. It's quite nice there. So this construction, this replacement, will it affect that intersection again? Because it's a heavily traveled, or is this work, I don't know if it's going to be done under the road because it's a bridge? Anyway, the long and short of it is, I guess it's going to affect the traffic in that intersection again?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the intent is to try and minimize any traffic disruption in the intersection. We were well aware of the issues of the water main on Boundary Road when we were doing the work on the Foster Fraser Bridge or Bennett Street Bridge and through that intersection. So we have tried as best as possible to work things out that we can still deal with it, not have to go into the intersection and rip everything back up again, as well as allow the Bennett Street Bridge and Everett Street to be used as detour traffic for Bennett. So we have looked at that and we're hopeful that we won't have to damage too much of what we've already done. We definitely will not be going anywhere near the bridge itself.
Thank you for that.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? That's carried. Okay, Mr. Lewis, next up is snow hauling, snow leveling.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Operations Department recommends the following. Committee approve award of the snow hauling, city streets, snow leveling, snow disposal facility 2020 to 2022, tender number T-20-15 to 902474, Ontario Limited, operating as Do All Construction, for the 2-year contract value of approximately $173,045 plus HST, that being the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Contract tender number T20-15 is for the 2020-2021 winter season and the 2021-2022 winter season. Contract was publicly advertised and tendered. 3 bids were received. They were opened on October 13th by the Deputy Treasurer and the Supervisor of Roads and Fleet. The Deputy Treasurer reviewed and analyzed the bids and found them to be comparable and reasonable. As of late, tenders were not opened in public due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, but the bidders were provided with unofficial bid opening results immediately after the tender opening. Bids were received as follows. Do All Construction, $173,045. RGT Kluche Construction Limited at $173,055.60, and McCrae Excavating Limited at $192,099.60. The previous contractor for this work was Eastway Contracting, Inc. The unit prices with the tender is firm for a 2-year contract, and it represents approximately 14.7% increase over the last contract. Budget allocation for these works is included in the operating and maintenance budget for winter control. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Councillor Frenier?
I'm going to support the recommendation, but what would be the reasonings for such a large increase, 14.7%? Is it because the last estimate was done actually 2 years ago for a 2-year contract? So really it was 7% increase probably over each year for those 2 years?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, it could be anticipated that there's an increase annually on maintenance of the equipment that's being used. Staff, the contractor's staff may have received increases, as well as fuel increases that could be anticipated. So I would agree 7% and 7% annually.
Okay, I was hoping they'd go down since gas certainly has gone down, but it doesn't relay that way. So thank you. I will put forward a motion that we accept the recommendation as presented.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Abdallah. Any other discussion? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Okay, Mr. Lewis, next up is snow clearing, 5E.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last one. The Operations Department recommends the following. Committee approve award of the snow clearing city parking lots 2020 through 2022, tender number T-20-16 to H&H Construction, Inc. for the 2-year contract value of approximately $185,178 plus HST, that being the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Contract T-20-16 is for the 2020-2021 winter season, as well as the 2021-2022 winter season. Contract was publicly advertised. 3 bids were received. Tenders were opened again on Tuesday, October 13th by the Deputy Treasurer and the Supervisor of Roads and Fleet. The Deputy Treasurer reviewed and analyzed the bids, found them to be comparable and reasonable. Again, tenders were not opened in public due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Bids were received as follows. H&H Construction, Inc. at $185,178. RGT Kluche Construction at $316,184. McCrae Excavating Limited at $449,467.20. Previous contractor was H&H Construction, Inc. The unit pricing with the tender is firm for 2 years and represents approximately 3.9% increase over the last contract. Budget allocation for these works, as mentioned in the previous report, are included in the various operating and maintenance budgets for city facilities and parking lots. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Questions, questions, motions? Councillor Reevy?
I would move that we accept staff's recommendation to award the snow clearing for the parking lots to H&A Construction.
Okay, Councillor Plummer?
I would second the motion.
Okay, Councillor Abdallah? Okay. Call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Okay, thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Councillor Reevy and Councillor Abdallah, we are adjourned.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this council meeting of Tuesday, October the 20th, 2020 to order. Please bow your heads, and before opening this meeting of council, I would ask those who wish, each in your own way, each in your own words, silently join in a prayer of guidance over these proceedings. Thank you. Is there any disclosure between your interest and general nature thereof? None. Approve our minutes from our council meeting, which was held on October the 6th, 2020. Moved by Councillor Lafreniere, seconded by Councillor Plummer. All those in favor? Carried. Adopt the minutes from our Parks and Recreation Committee meeting, which was held on September the 15th, 2020. Moved by Councillor Lafreniere, seconded by Councillor Abdallah. All those in favor? Carried. Our Operations Committee meeting, which was held on September the 15th, 2020. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Giacono. All those in favor? Carried. Receiving minutes from the Friends of the Disabled of February the 12th, 2019, and the Pembroke Heritage Murals of October the 7th, 2020. Moved by Councillor Abdallah, seconded by Councillor Plummer. All those in favor? Carried. Proclamations. By virtue of the power vested in me, I do hereby declare Thursday, October the 22nd, 2020 as the 20th Annual Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Education Appreciation Day in the City of Pembroke. Whereas years of research confirm the benefits of high-quality child care for young children's intellectual, emotional, social, and physical development and later life outcomes, and whereas child care promotes the well-being of children and responds to the needs of parents, families, and the broader community by supporting quality of life so that citizens can fully participate in and contribute to the economic and social life of their community. And whereas trained and knowledgeable early childhood educators and child care staff are the key to quality in early learning and child care programs and champions for children, therefore I, Michael LeMay, Mayor of the City of Pembroke, do hereby proclaim Thursday, October the 22nd, 2020, Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day in the City of Pembroke. Dated in the Mayor's office is 20th day of October 2020. And I'm sure everybody is well aware that this particular sector serving our community has faced many challenges during COVID-19, and I'm really thankful that all our child care facilities are now open. Mayor's report. On Monday, I hosted the first Mayor's Diversity Roundtable. We hosted a virtual Zoom meeting and welcomed community members and stakeholders. In the roundtable, we heard from local residents about their experiences with racism and discrimination in our community, and potential solutions were discussed. Participants had an open and thoughtful discussion about their experiences in Pembroke and area. Ideas were shared about how Pembroke can work towards being a more welcoming community for everyone. I am so grateful for each and every person that participated in our roundtable on Monday. While it is disheartening to hear many of the experiences that were shared, I am confident that we can work towards becoming a more welcoming community. In the coming months, staff will be working in consultation with the roundtable participants and council on a set of action items to help move us in a positive direction. October 18th to the 23rd is Small Business Week. Now, a small business is one that is under 100 employees, meaning that a majority of our businesses in Pembroke are small. To celebrate, the city is hosting a virtual campaign entitled The Faces of Small Businesses in Pembroke. Each day this week, photos of small business owners will be shared on social media to show residents the faces behind some of our favorite businesses. We know that the pandemic has been hard, particularly on small business, So I'm strongly encouraging everyone to shop local and support your local small business owner. Now that we are in the second wave of COVID-19, it is more important than ever to follow public health guidelines. In many regions of Ontario, we are seeing surges in the number of COVID-19 cases, resulting in the closure of a number of businesses. To avoid this happening in the city of Pembroke, we need to remain vigilant, taking all the necessary steps to avoid the spread of the coronavirus. These include staying home when ill, or keeping your child home from school when ill, practicing physical distancing with those outside your household, wearing a mask covering when physical distancing is a challenge and where it is mandatory to do so, washing your hands frequently and thoroughly, and adhering to gathering limits and rules. For additional protection, the Ontario government is encouraging everyone to download the new COVID Alert app on their smartphones from the Apple and Google Play app stores. It is important to remember that we must limit our social gatherings to a maximum of 10 people indoors and 25 people outdoors. It is also now mandatory in every region of Ontario to wear a mask while in public spaces. I'd like to thank all of our frontline workers who are working tirelessly to keep our community safe. Thanks to our local businesses for continuing to adapt their operations as required in order to keep the community free from COVID-19. I encourage all of Pembroke's residents to shop locally and to continue supporting our business community. Whether it's in person or online, supporting our local business owners is critical for full economic recovery during these very challenging times. In conclusion, I'd like to thank all of Pembroke's citizens for continuing to do what is required in order to keep our community safe during these challenging times. The threat of COVID-19 outbreak in Pembroke is very real. The fight against the coronavirus is far from over, so it is critical to remain vigilant about following the public health guidelines. So stay safe and thank you. Notices of motion. Councillor updates. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Two items this evening. The first, just want to bring council up to date. It was my pleasure to attend Saturday night, the spooky movie night at the Skylight Theatre. I want to emphasize that it was a true success, not only from the uptake from the community going to this particular event and partaking in that event, but the cooperation between the City of Pembroke and the Township of Laurentian Valley. Certainly, it emphasized that the two municipalities can put on events, can work together for a common goal, which is our communities, to bring that community together. So I would like to do a shout out for our Recreation Department, in particular Sarah Frederick, who co-hosted together with Laurentian Valley's Recreation Department, namely Nevada Sargent and Katie Tolis Flaby, I believe is how you pronounce her name. So that's the first item. The second item is just to bring forward some additional information in terms of the community watch that is being worked on between Councillor Abdallah and myself, is that the event for, we were planning a meeting, a fifth meeting, I believe it would be, for October 24th. We are canceling that one in favor of a Zoom meeting on November 26th at 6:30. We will send out a link prior to that particular meeting. It looks very favorable to having our first Community Watch neighborhood, which, as I understand, will be between the confines of McKay Street, Moffat Street, Renfrew Street, and Mary Street. There is a community individual, a volunteer, Steve Halpenny, has agreed and is volunteering to be the zone captain, and that's really what we need, is someone in each community, whether it be a street or a multiple streets, to come forward and be that individual that's willing to spearhead it. Not everyone wants to be that particular person. Other individuals simply like to do other roles in terms of this community watch. So I'm very looking very favorably upon that particular area. I can indicate that in the corner of, or in the area of Margaret Street and Moffett Street, that there's an individual that has expressed an interest in that area. So it is gaining traction, and so it's nice to see that happening. And certainly in terms, it's not a daunting task. There's an electronic material that can be sent out to the different individuals to bring them up to speed as to what the program is about and to get them on board. So it's not a daunting task. It's nothing to be afraid of, but certainly will go a great length to assisting the community, assisting the OPP in dealing with crime in your own community.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Reevy. Your mic, you're muted.
I must have double tapped. Just a short update from Renfrew County District Health Unit. We don't have any directives as of yet for Halloween, what it may look like. Expecting something early next week to come out. So whatever that information is, it will be on the city's website as well as the health unit's website. Something important though, the health unit's lease at the county administration building is terminated effective October 31st. So construction is going forward at 141 Lake Street. We're not quite ready to move in. So there is temporary offices going to be set up at the Pembroke Mall. And that's effective October 26th. So basically business as usual with no disruption of services. Regular office hours will continue from 8 till 4, Monday to Friday. And the regular public health service offerings do include water testing, routine immunizations, and the ongoing, of course, COVID-19 response for all residents of Renfrew County and District. So on top of all the challenges that have been prevented, staff continue to just give their all. They're sitting currently amongst boxes for the first of 2 moves to the mall, but they will still continue to do their excellent work. And I just wanted to make mention on a different matter, how beautiful the remembrance banners are downtown. You know, I know that there was a program for family members to purchase banners of relatives that had fought in the world wars, but the other ones, it just looks beautiful. So I commend all that were involved in that. It's special. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Abdallah.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. I have a couple of things to report on tonight. The first one is from the PBIA. This week is Poutine Crawl. I heard Deputy Mayor Gervais talking about it to Councillor Frenier and the mayor earlier before the meeting, so I know they're interested. You go downtown, you have poutine every day, and you get a poutine passport at the participating restaurants, and you can win a chance to win downtown dollars. So we hope to see everybody downtown having the poutine. Next item up is the farmers market is closed. Last Saturday was the last day. They had a very successful season, and the vendors want to thank everyone for supporting them during the year. And as a community, we want to thank the vendors for providing fresh produce. I must commend the farmers market vendors and their committee for acting quickly upon the province COVID restrictions, and they did a great job. And in talking to them every week, they said that they didn't have too bad of a year despite the COVID regulations. The community garden, we have 4 beds left out of the 10 for the individual and families. And we have 4 nonprofit beds left. If you're interested, you can contact the Recreation Department or the Deputy Mayor Gervais or myself. In the spring, we're having one of the local schools are going to build us 5 raised accessible beds for people that require that. And I see Councillor Reevy smiling, and we'll be asking for her input on that. and her committee. Also, we want to have an accessible garden, so we want to build a accessible walkway so that they can park and come and access those accessible beds, because it's not an even lawn there. And we're also planning to build a shed by a local school and get some tools in the spring. So that's coming along also. Thank you, Your Worship.
Any other updates? Councillor Lafreniere.
As Councillor Reevy mentioned, Halloween's around the corner. We're not really sure what the directives are going to be yet from the health unit, so we're sort of waiting on that. But in the meantime, the Kinsman Pool is having an activity that I just wanted to share with anyone who isn't on social media a lot or anything like that, where they would find this out. They are having what they're calling a spooky swim on October 31st from 2:30 to 3:30, and families up to 6 are encouraged to book their space at the pool. It's only $13.50 for a family up to 6 people, and those 6 must be from the same household. So they're really practicing some good guidelines so you can have a fun, spooky swim. So I encourage anyone who's interested in participating to book their spot now by calling the Kinsman Pool at 735-6821, extension 1506. So call and reserve your spot. It sounds like a lot of fun. And I just wanted to say, in reference to the poutine crawl, Councillor Abdallah said have a poutine every day. You really only have to have 2 in a week, so don't worry. You don't have to eat it every day, as much as we all love our poutine, or we'd be crawling literally to get some exercise at the pool on Halloween. So I just wanted to clarify. So you only have to have it twice, but anyway, I'm going to have mine for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Other updates? Confirming bylaw, Deputy Mayor?
I'd rather have the 7 though, Councillor Abdallah. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Friendly, that bylaw 20-2020 to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of council of October 20th, 2020 be adopted and passed, and further that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gervais, seconded by Councillor Lafreniere, that bylaw 20-2020 to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of council of October the 20th, 2020 be adopted and passed. And further, that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. All those in favor? Carried. Could I have a motion to adjourn, please? Moved by Councillor Reevy, seconded by Councillor Plummer. All those in favor? We are now adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.